Hey everyone, let's start healing. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and welcome to episode 117 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. I have to say that love is the name of the game for me today and always. I had the pleasure of attending an anniversary event or events at Hillside International Truth Center this weekend in Atlanta. And the love that was there in this space was incredible. The love of the congregation. They are about love and oneness, and to feel palpable love in the air is so striking to me because, we know when we feel hate or the opposite of love. We know when we feel a negative energy. And it's just always so wonderful and beautiful to feel a positive energy. And it was just great. Iyanla Van Zant, Marianne Williamson, Ricky Byers, were there over the course of 3 or 4 days. I didn't have an opportunity to see Ricky Byers, but I did see Marianne Williamson and Iyanla, and they were great, of course. Their messages were very, very powerful. Well, today I have a guest that I love to have on Let's Start Healing, which is a fellow podcaster and my nephew, John Russell Murchison. He lives in Chesapeake, Virginia. I really wanted to talk to him about Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and in a spiritual way, but also in the way that Deion is naturally in his personality, that alpha personality. So I am, again, I'm going to use the word struck by Deion because when I see him, to me, he represents what my spiritual faith is about. Like he sees himself the way that we are supposed to see ourselves in the eyes of God, in my opinion. In my opinion, God is love, and we are a child of God, and we are empowered with so many gifts that we don't recognize. And he recognizes and embraces these gifts and these blessings. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I thought that Russ would be great to talk about this with because he's also an alpha personality, and I know he can relate and impart some insight. So we are going to have, or we do have, a very fun conversation that has some nuances to it. We mention some names, and sometimes we just mention first names that a lot of people will know. So, but a lot of people who don't, I want you to just have some context. He did say Mike McDaniel's full name. Mike McDaniels is the coach of the Miami Dolphins. He mentioned Gilly, who is a rapper and co-host of the podcast $1 Million Worth of Game. And the reason that he mentioned him is because he recently lost his son. And so when Russ brings him up, he's bringing that up. He's bringing up his name in the context of that. We mentioned Skip, and that is Skip Bayless of Undisputed. And we mentioned Shannon, and that is Shannon Sharp, formerly of Undisputed, now with First Take. And there was a lot of controversy around everything with Shannon, and starting from the Buffalo Bills game last January. So you can go back and look that up, but pretty much everybody knows all of that. I'm just trying to give it some context. And we talk about Shannon, and also we talk about Stephen A. Smith briefly, and Terrell Owens, and the controversy that's going on between those two. So we just say Stephen A, or we might just say T.O. So you have some context around that. And then we also mention Stephen Jackson and a comment that I heard him make over this weekend that I thought was really interesting. Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes have the podcast All the Smoke. So it's a fun conversation and thought provoking. So I am looking forward to hearing what you think. And, faith is, um, faith, faith is really a powerful thing. And we mention, actually, Russ brings it up first about how Deion will say, "You don't believe," when he's talking to the media or a media person sometime who's questioning him. And he'll say, "You don't believe." And I understand uh, more now. I mean, I understood, but it's deeper now in my spirit. I get it. Sometimes when we have faith, it just is. And one of the biggest impacts on me of my faith was when I was a child. I had a dog named Gigi. She was a poodle, and Gigi actually lived 18 years. So she lived into my early adulthood. And gosh, I loved her, loved her, loved her. And my mom would let Gigi out sometimes and forget that she would let her out. And then, all of a sudden we're like, where is she? And she might be around, or she might have walked down the street, right? So one day my mother let her out, and it was quite a while before she realized that she had let her outside. And so she was gone. And she was my heart and soul. And I must have been maybe 12 at the time, and 11 or 12 at the time, and she was gone. We could not find her. My parents put an ad in the paper. They we went around all over the place trying to find her, and it had been almost about 2 weeks. And I was really upset, and I remember I was at school, and I was in the cafeteria with one of my close friends. She was a neighbor, lived a couple doors down, and our families knew each other. And I had been really upset previously, and I didn't seem to be upset. We were in the cafeteria. There was some event that was going on in the cafeteria. And right before it started, my friend said to me, "You don't seem to be that upset about Gigi anymore," because I had been like laughing and joyful, like in the moment before she said this to me. And so I instantly said, without thinking, "Well, that's because I know she's coming back." And so she said, "How do you know that?" And I said, "I just know." And then that was the end of that. And I sat there for a couple of minutes, and I thought about what I had just said. And it was just an automatic response to her. "Well, that's because I know she's coming back." And I said, "Well, do I know she's coming back?" She's coming back. I remember saying that to myself, but it was such a it was such an immediate response out of me. So the very next day, I come home from school, and my mom and dad would get home. My mother would get home around 5:30. My father, if he was working days, he would get home around the same time. And so I get home in the afternoon. My mom's car's in the driveway. And I'm like, "What is she doing home?" And then I go in the house, and I'm happy that she's home because I love my mom, and I always loved when she was around as much as possible. And she's upstairs, and the stairs are uh, go up from the kitchen. So I'm at the bottom of the stairs in the kitchen, and I'm like, "Mom?" And so she comes out of the bathroom, which is at the top of the steps. And so I said, "What are you doing home?" And she says, "Come here a second." And so I come up the steps, and in the bathtub is Gigi. And I went wild. I mean, she's all dirty. And I was like, "Oh my God." And we're just like, it was just incredible. She's splashing water and everything. It was incredible. And it was such an example. It remains such a powerful example to me of faith. And it was just something that I did. I didn't think too hard about it. I just responded to my friend. She's coming back. And when she said, "How do you know?" And I said, "She just is." And I just chose to stay in that place of belief. And I'd like to be able to do that throughout my entire life. Sometimes I can, and sometimes it's a little harder. Well, anyway, let's get to this conversation with Russ. Let's meet him once again. Let's get started and let's start healing. Welcome, Russell.
Hey, no, look at that. Energy.
How you doing? Yeah, right.
I'm chilling.
Well, I don't know what I want to ask you first. Well, we're going to talk about Deion, and there's a reason that I want to talk about Deion. But first, I want to see how you're doing. The last time that you were here, you shared that you were going to have another child. And
I don't think I shared it. I think
yes,
I knew
you did.
It. Was it?
On the podcast.
Me, you and Charles were talking. Check it out. Me, you, and Charles were talking.
Uh-huh.
You kept saying something was going on with me. I was like, I'm tired. I didn't say anything on the podcast.
Right. You're right. But then you guys shared it on social media. But yeah.
I hit you up first.
Huh?
I said I hit you up first.
No, you did. I'm just trying to find out how you're doing now. But for the record, since you brought that up, I was right. There was something going on with you.
I mean, I guess that's what you saw. I was really tired.
Yeah. Okay.
She's still pregnant, and I ain't tired right now.
Yeah, but you were just sharing the news, and you had been.
That wasn't me. I didn't have an issue. It wasn't like she got pregnant. I was worried.
I know. But you having a daughter, and
hey man,
it's a different.
Most of the regular people in this world, stuff like that matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, to me, I'm a different type of person.
But there was nothing wrong the last time. It was just my imagination.
I was tired.
Mm-hmm.
I know men have a tough time with you. I really went to the store. What?
That's because I know what I know.
I have no reason to lie. If it was that, I would have told you.
No, you're not lying. I'm not trying to say
I would have
that.
been like, yo, it was stressing me out. I would have really told you. I was tired.
Well, how are you doing today? I always like to see how you're doing. How are you doing
I'm cool.
Today? Yeah,
I'm cool. Yeah, I'm cool. I don't know. It's the fall. I'm waiting for the weather to truly turn. It's a tropical storm here.
Yeah.
I just got my iPhone, so that's cool. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of like in good spirits tech-wise. Football season is here. I'm a big 49ers fan, so that's fun. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I'm in a good space. I'm chilling.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, ain't nothing going on crazy with work or nothing.
What'd you say?
Nothing's crazy. Nothing crazy is going on at work or anything.
So, I want to talk about Deion, and the reason, God, it's a few reasons. One, there's something really spiritual that comes up for me with him. And then he also has that, obviously he has an alpha personality, but there's some things about him that his sensibilities make me think of you. And so I just want to kind of blend them together. What's his sign anyway?
Is he a Leo? I don't know. You about to look it up?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a Leo. I thought so.
Gosh, he's born on the same day as Wayne. Well,
I'm trying to, I always be like, Leos are cool with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're cool with me too. They can get on my nerves of late in recent years.
I ain't ever really butt heads with Leos like that.
I get along with them. They just want things their way all the time. I'm not saying that's Deion because he's evolved.
That's not That's not really my experience, but we'll get into it when we talk about his personality and we'll talk about the whole alpha situation. Because again, I don't know what we were going to discuss, so it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. And everything that I'm saying is definitely like, just straight from
Yeah.
the heart.
So for me, everything blends together, but when I bring them up, they might sound separate, but
Okay.
it's all meshed together. The
Okay.
reason that I'm so struck by him, it's not the only reason, but his way is really his personality, his way of being is really what my faith is about. I do not imagine that our faiths are the same. I imagine that his faith might be a little more structured. My faith isn't structured, but my faith, say for A Course in Miracles, is about you are everything. Like you, me, I'm everything. God is inside me. I can accomplish whatever I want to accomplish. I can be whatever I want to be. And as you've heard me say many times, if I'm not doing that, or if I fall into some other way of thinking, I forgot who I am, because I am
Right.
almighty powerful.
Right. And I think where it may even get different, and I'm not trying to make your words different. When you said your faith may be a little bit different, that's what I disagree with. I think your faith may be the same. It could just be the religious construct that
Yes,
people put around your faith
you're so
that could be
smart.
different, but your faith is the same.
That's why you're so smart.
Oh, no.
But yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, yeah.
So speak about what I just said
As far as which part?
about the faith part and how I'm so struck by him.
Well, I think, like you said, all of this stuff is going to blend together. But I think what may remind you of Prime and I may also factor into like your dad. Like we have an unwavering faith in what we're saying. Like when we feel like we know something, and we just know it. And it's either you're with it or you're not with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that is how every human should approach what they know, right? And so in religion, which leads to, spirituality and faith, in religion more so than anything, they teach you that, but everybody doesn't practice it the same way. It's like in the Bible, they'll say faith without works is dead, but then you'll have people walking around every day worrying. You know what I mean? But the words are right there. They're just showing you like, look, you got to have faith. You got to put in the work, and it ain't nothing to worry about, but you're still going to have a whole bunch of people that worry. People like Deion, people like me, we don't spend a lot of time worrying because our knowing is the foundation of how we're moving through life.
And
So
what
just looking at him, I know that's what he's saying. Like, that's why he's telling them, you don't believe, but I'm going to make you believe. Like, you
right.
don't believe that what I'm coming to do is going to happen, but it's okay. I know, you just don't know. That's
No,
really what it is.
you are so right. You are so right, because I was thinking about myself and just my own journey and how I'm able to keep going if any difficult times arise. And
Right.
it's because I may be in my human mind
Mm-hmm.
worried, or this happened, or I can make up all these things, but I am believing the higher truth. I am committed to that higher truth, even though in this moment I'm feeling doubtful because what I'm looking at is something else. But I am still willing to believe and committed to this higher truth.
Right. And what you're expressing is totally right. That's how a lot of people are in life. It's not just worry, but you know what I'm saying? It's doubt, it's self-doubt, it's doubt in the unknown. It's a lot of things that come into play that are very human emotions that make sense. But when you get to the crux of most religions, but not necessarily sticking on religion, just the fact that they're trying to teach you certain principles to get you through life, it's generally the same when it comes to faith and your higher power
Right.
and your calling and your knowing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And some people are just in their human state more evolved in that way. I don't
Yeah.
really want to use the term evolved because it's really not like a good or a bad. It's just how people operate in life. And
Right.
he's one of those people that operate kind of like the way I operate. It's like things are done intentionally. I do things with an intention and I expect it to go a particular way. I don't expect it not to go right. I can be prepared for it in a certain way. I can adjust to it at all times, but I'm not expecting this not to go the way it's supposed to go.
Right. And so, what goes through you when something doesn't go the way you desire it to go?
Personally speaking, I can't speak for him, but personally speaking, that's life. You know what I mean? Like I look at life like a lot of people have there's this saying that I say to my friends or I say to myself a lot. If I see somebody going through something hard, I'm always like, I'm glad I ain't that person. Right? That's all I'm saying. Like I'm glad I'm not them. But when I go through something in life, I don't look at myself like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going through this. I look at it like, all right, this is a life lesson that I'm going to have to take something from and persevere. I'm going to have to take something from and grow. So when something doesn't go right, I don't focus on it not going right. I focus more so on what am I supposed to get out of this? And that could be spiritual or that can be human, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just that way. I could be like, dang God, what are you trying to teach me? And at the same time, I was like, man, I should have known better than to turn down this street. Next time I know better not to go that
Right.
way. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be as, far out or super spiritual for me to approach it in that manner.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
when you were talking about things that you intend for them to go a certain way, what I
Right.
have found in my life is what I have to do is be on that path and be
Right.
committed to this is what I desire, this is my goal, this is what I want to happen. But it does not usually come from me doing that. But it's important for me to do that. But what happens is it comes from left field, something that was beyond my control. I had nothing to do with. This miracle happens. But
So
it's
check it out,
important
man.
for me to be on the journey.
So my explanation of that is you're a floater. And that's how it happens for floaters. You know what I'm saying?
Tell people
Like
what you
people,
mean by that.
what I mean, it's certain people in life where they float through life in certain circumstances. I don't mean that like in like a spacey type way. I mean like they may say, hey, I don't know what's going to happen outside, but I'm getting dressed and I'm about to go out there because I just feel like going outside. Like they don't have an intention about going to this particular concert. They're not worried about safety. They're not worried about a lot of other things in the forefront. It's not that they don't think about it at all. That's just not at the forefront of their mind. At the forefront of their mind is whatever they're focused on. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have like an intentional path. And sometimes they may get caught up in something, but it always works itself out.
But that's
You know what I mean?
separate from what I'm talking about.
No, it is. But what I'm trying to say is that's how things happen for people with that type of mentality to me. Like you could have a path that you're trying to go down and you feel like you're supposed to be going down this path. And in that, you still have your Adrian energy, which is different from Russell energy, right? Say, for instance, I turn on my MacBook, I press the power button, it's gonna work. You turn on your MacBook, you press the power button, you're expecting something to be weird. Something weird happens, and then it justifies the energy that you gave it. My thing works, and it justifies the energy that I gave it. But at the same token, we both get to the same destination of making our Mac do what we want it to do. Does that kind of help?
Yes, that helps. I want to still say that no, you're not lying. You're not lying. That is true. That's true. But what I'm saying, and I think it's all together, is let's say, and this is just one example. Let's say I'm applying for a job, right?
Right.
I really want a job. I really want to say in an industry. All right.
Right.
I really want a job in an industry. I'm really trying. And I'm applying here, I'm applying there, apply. And when I get the job, it's not going to be from one of these applications.
Understood.
I'm going to get it from some miracle, some happenstance thing. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's an example.
But that's what I meant by you being a floater. It didn't directly correlate to what we're talking about. What I'm saying is that's the kind of energy that is just in your life. That's just your, like, we don't live the same type of life in that regard. You know what I'm saying? And so that's all I'm saying. It's like for people that I consider floaters, stuff just be happening. You know what I'm saying?
It's
like
so funny because I will see people, like I'm a rising Libra, and I know a Libra when I meet a Libra. And I'll be like, you're a Libra, aren't you? Or what's your sign? I knew it. And they're they're bigger floaters than me. I don't really consider myself a floater. I just know what you're saying.
But you know what's so funny? Because the way you are with your rising sign is the way I am with my sun sign. Like I was literally watching Mike McDaniel on the pivot and he was just talking. And a lot of people look at him so abstract. And I was like, yo, is Mike McDaniel a Pisces? And I go on Google, March
Yeah.
6th, Pisces. I can just, it could be just something about them that I know that person's a Pisces.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right, right,
I
right.
get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Wayne Dyer, who you've heard me talk about before, his
Mm-hmm.
thing, he's not living. His thing was, like I was saying, God is inside of us.
Yeah.
So he would say, I am God, which
Right.
is blasphemous for some people. But
Right.
literally, if God is inside you, or the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit is inside you, then you are God. You know, you
Exactly.
are a part of God. You are God. So,
Exactly.
like, my hand is my body, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what I think about when I think about Deion. I feel like he is so, he just believes, like you said.
Right.
Like you said, he embodies
Right.
what to me we all should embody, but he's looked at sideways.
I'm sure if he were to have this kind of conversation in a private setting, he would definitely align with what you're saying. And I think a lot of people, like I said, it goes right back to it. Religion will say something, but people will interpret it a different way and
Right,
practice it a different way. But it's
right.
really saying the same thing. So the person who says, I am God, is no different than the person who says, God is in me. God is with me all the time.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? But just the wording of it is just going to throw some people off and it's going to attract some people.
Right.
And so Dion may be one of those people. You can't be that type of person. You can't be as gifted as he is and not feel that. You get what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah,
you can't.
yeah.
So to a part of me, what attracts me to him as a person is he's also very humble. So I would think on one hand he wouldn't say that to you, but I know he feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
You know what I mean? If
yeah.
nothing else, at most when he does something amazing, it's like I'm doing God's work. You know what I
Right,
mean? But he
right.
knows he's doing it.
Literally, literally.
Yeah, yeah,
And you know, it's something also I think about is with his medical issues with his foot and his toes and all of that. And we hear about the surgery. And you watched, I think I might have seen like maybe one episode, but you watched that whole documentary.
yeah,
And I think it's so interesting that we'll hear about somebody who went through something. And it's like we don't understand that actual length of time, like
yeah, yeah,
living it and going through that
yeah.
is a hell of a thing.
Yeah. I think in a lot of ways, you have a lot of people who they're put on this earth to really just show you their strength, to be pillars and examples to other people and give them strength. And those who have strength just admire it and take notes. It's no different than when I was talking to you about watching the pivot the other day and listening to Gilly speak and the amount of strength that he has as a person. It's the same way with Prime. My best friend's dad, I remember he already had one of his legs amputated from the knee down. And my homeboy wanted me to go to the hospital with him. And his dad said it was cool to get his other one amputated due to diabetes. And we were sitting in there in the pre-op room. And, you know, it's just me and my best friend and his father. And his father was like, just chilling, like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's another day at the park. And his son was like, hey, Dad, you not scared? And he was like, nah, son. This is the outcome of what I did. I just got to go ahead and bite the bullet. He dapped us up. He went back there. And as a young man, you know, it's a lot of stuff that you learn from men. As a young man coming up, I'm not a woman, so that's the only reason why I didn't say woman. But as a woman, I'm sure you have feelings of what you think you will be or who you think you are, but you don't know because you haven't been through anything yet. That's kind of how it is for men. But when that happened, it resonated with me. Like I just felt it. Like I felt like what he was doing in that moment. Like I just gotta go back there and do it. I approach a lot of crazy situations that I've been in life, like with that, without
Right,
panic. Like I'm
right,
just not panicking. Like this is just what it is.
right.
And I believe Dion to be that way. Like even though he was hurting, I mean, all that physical pain, people like that cry, people like that are in anguish, people like that have, you know, hard days. It's not like I'm saying this man is infallible or he's Superman or anything like that. But there's a knowing that no matter how hard this is, I'm gonna push through and I'm still gonna
Exactly.
be me.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I know you've seen this, you've probably seen this clip or heard him comment here and there. I happened to be watching when he was on 60 Minutes, and
Okay.
he was asked about when he first got to Colorado and
Mhm.
how he was talking to them and saying that they weren't really going to be able to make it. Like these players
Right.
were going to be leaving, and the way that he was talking to them, I forgot exactly what he said. And so
Yeah.
the person interviewing him was commenting about it. And he said, like, you're really discouraging them. And he said, well, if they were buying into what I was saying, then, they don't believe, they don't need to be there.
Exactly.
And okay, you speak. Go ahead.
So I'm the type of person that operates best off of negative pressure. I
Mm-hmm.
do better when you tell me I can't do something. I do better when you tell me I don't deserve something. I do better when I'm just not expected to do anything, and I do way better when I'm doubted. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And my homeboy Brett used to always say when we would play basketball, he said Russell can miss every single shot on the court, but if you tell him it's a last shot, I guarantee you he'll make it. And Skip calls that kind of like the clutch gene, but it's not even about being clutch. It's just everything surrounded by that negative pressure just makes everything open up. But
Yeah.
if you tell me, good job, great job, you can do this, good job, great job, it's distracting in a way.
How
So
so?
I get how a person who likes that kind of positive reinforcement would hear Deion and that would be demoralizing. But to the person that's like me, that's everything I need to hear. Because when I get through it, then I know I'm there. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
It's an unwavering confidence.
Yeah.
It's an unwavering brotherhood. I just know what we're doing, what we came
Yeah.
to do. It's 2 seconds left on the
Yeah.
clock. We're about to score this touchdown. It's not, okay, I hope we don't. And that's why I like Josh Allen. Just telling you.
Josh Allen is a whole nother story.
Just telling you.
You've made me a believer of what some of his problems may be. But
Yes.
I'm such a mix of both because I definitely need positive reinforcement, but I don't like anybody to tell me what to do. And I was thinking today about how I have always been that way, like even as a child. Like your parents have to tell you what to do, but don't tell me what to do. I
Yeah, my
don't like
son's
that.
like
Yeah.
Jackson.
Yeah. Told you
Yeah,
I
he
ain't
don't like it.
Jack.
Yeah, he don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah, don't tell
But
me what
me
to do.
knowing that, I
Mm-hmm.
know how to talk to him.
Right. You have
You
to
get what
know
I'm
how to
saying?
talk to me.
Yeah, you gotta treat a person like that with respect and equality. If they
Yeah.
know it's coming from a place of equality, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? But if they feel like they're just being told, it's negative. It's
Right.
just it's all negative.
Right.
They fight
Right.
back.
Right. Yeah. So I do like positive reinforcement, but if I
Mhm.
hear something negative, that can demoralize me until a point. Because if I
So
hit a
now
wall, then it's like I'm done. Or I may be like, I'm going to show you or whatever. I'm kind of disconnecting once I hit the wall from the
right. So
emotion. From the
so
emotion.
so here's the thing. The key part about that whole Deion situation, to be perfectly honest with you, was about him cleaning house. It
Right.
has nothing to do with how he coaches. Did you see the clip of when he was talking to Jimmy Horn Jr. after he had messed up in that game with Colorado State?
I heard about it. I didn't
Okay.
see it.
So just to recap for everybody, Jimmy Horn Jr. is a wide receiver on the Colorado Buffaloes, and he had dropped a couple of passes. Colorado's down 28-20, and in that moment, he has to come back to the sideline out of messing up, and his father is incarcerated, and Deion talks to Jimmy. He puts his hand on his shoulder, and I'm paraphrasing here because I don't quote that well. And he's basically like, "Look, man, your daddy is in there watching this game right now. He's proud of you. He loves you, and he's out there showing out for all the other inmates in there. And I believe in you. And you a dog. Go out there and prove him right." And then he ends up catching the pass that leads to the touchdown that gets them the 2-point conversion that gets them in to overtime. That's the difference between me cleaning house and now me knowing who everyone is on my team. I know all of y'all are dogs. So now that I know all of y'all are dogs, now I can be the positive reinforcement person. Now I can have patience. Now, because I already know what I put you through to get here.
Right.
But if you're not good enough to get here in the first place, I ain't even worried about that. And that's what that was more so about. So it's not that he doesn't give positive reinforcement. It's not that he's not there for people. he doesn't even talk like a drill sergeant. He don't even curse.
Right. And I know that. I'm glad you
So
shared that, but I do
yeah,
know
but I
that.
just wanted to clarify that point because it is different. It's not like I didn't want somebody to take away from this, like, well, I wouldn't want him coaching me or coaching my kid because
Yeah.
it's not the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was beautiful. I almost wanted to cry over
Yeah, no,
that.
it was deep, man.
Yeah.
That dude he's a real deal, man.
Yeah, he is. And I thought that, watching this game, which I want to get to in a second, the Oregon game today, where I saw him talking to the defense and he had his hand on one person's shoulder. And I didn't feel like he was berating them. I felt like he was trying to uplift them.
Because a lot of people don't understand what he's doing, right? And there's a part about the media that I've always disliked, and that is the way that they will build somebody up and then also tear them down. You know what I mean? There's no allegiance or loyalty to the subject. There's only an allegiance to what they perceive as telling the truth. And I'm not here to argue whether or not it's the truth or not. But what he's done has already exceeded whatever expectations all of the analysts and all of the pundits had before the season started. So coming into the season, Colorado only won one game last year. They expect them to win like 5 or 6 games, maybe. They got a slew of ranked teams that are on their schedule, and they're not supposed to win these games. They go into TCU, they win that game. They play Nebraska, they win that game. They're supposed to blow Colorado State out. That shows adversity. They win that game. They play Oregon today, or they're playing, well, they already played them.
Right.
And then they play USC next. Those games are games where they were supposed to get smacked anyway before the season started. But now that he's instilled this faith and has talked with such bravado, the media has built him up. And it's interesting to see if they're going to try to tear him down or if they're still riding with him.
Yeah, I'm expecting them to tear him down.
Because it's hard to tear down something that you're not supposed to. It would be the equivalent of saying that the Arizona Cardinals or the New York Giants are going to win the Super Bowl this year, knowing that when you came into the season, it was like, they're not supposed to win.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's like that.
Yeah. How do you expect him to react? Probably by now, when we're recording this, he's probably maybe talked to the media already by now.
So here's the thing. It's a life lesson, right? That's the first thing. Everything that's going to be taken out of this is going to be used as a tool of teaching and motivation for the kids. They can redeem themselves next week by beating USC in any capacity. It could be a high-scoring game. It could be a low-scoring game. It could be a last-second play. If they win that game next week, they have eclipsed everything that anybody thought that they would do, especially off of coming up to a loss against Oregon, because people believe USC is better than Oregon. Yeah. So now you have this situation where the pressure is kind of off. I think he'll thrive in that. I know he'll thrive in that. If they throw dirt on his name all week long, best believe it's coming.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, them being shut out, as far as I know, it was 42-0.
Yeah, that's the last thing I saw.
So I was listening to it and I was like, oh my God. Like there was just a couple of plays before it got crazy where I think when they were expecting a punt, that play, and it was a play before it. Well, I was like, oh no. I just felt like Deion was maybe nodding his head on the other side. Like, okay, I see you. I see what you're doing, with the other coach.
Yeah, it is what it is. And they're playing in Oregon, man. Like sometimes people are just going to get up for you. And like even their coach made it a thing about being flashy and doing stuff for clicks and all of this stuff. And it's really not about that. But people got to use whatever they can use to motivate their people. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is there anything else you wanted to bring up about him in terms of how you see him or?
So first off, my whole thing with Deion was I was definitely not a Falcons fan, but the Falcons were in the 49ers division. So he always had to play against Jerry Rice. And I grew up a Braves fan. And of course, at one point in time, he had played for the Braves. And so Prime was like the guy for us as far as it was Michael Jordan and then it was Deion Sanders as like the coolest athlete. And watching him, you can always tell if you're an alpha male, you can always tell another alpha male like right away. You know what I mean? And it's not even about the beating of their chest or the bravado. That comes after. You can always tell in their intention. It's like looks, it's the way they move. It's a lot that goes on. When you can see a man as a man, you see another man and all right, this ain't no easy win. You know what I mean? Whether you fighting them, whether you playing them in a sport, you just know you're going up against another dog. And somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose, but it's never about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What it's about is I'm coming. Like, I'm here and you got to deal with
Right,
me. You're
right,
not doing nothing on me for free. Ain't nothing easy. This is going to be work.
right.
Everybody's not like that. And so that rubs people the wrong way when people speak in that manner.
Mm-hmm. And you're having me think of something I wanted to bring up, and that's this thing. I know you have a big thing about respect,
Yeah.
and I guess I do too. I just call it something else. My thing is condescension. Like, you
Right.
can't do that to me. But number one, I was watching Shannon in his interview with Stephen A. on
Yeah.
Stephen A.'s podcast. Did you watch that yet?
I saw a little bit of it, but I definitely saw the clip in which he was talking about Skip. It took a lot for him not to put his hands on him. Like that part.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he went deep into the importance of respecting him.
Right.
And just because you were good to me and you did something for me doesn't mean that you can disrespect me. And I think
Exactly.
he said his grandmother used to say something like, don't let your, I'm not getting it right, but it's something like, don't let your loyalty lead you into a disrespectful place. Basically,
Yeah.
that was the point
That's
of
some
it.
real stuff.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, the way he articulated it, and he felt it in his whole core essence. You know, you
Yeah.
cannot disrespect him and you just get away with it. And then I was watching T.O. on the clip with Matt and Steven Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, talking about the whole Stephen A. thing. And so at the very end, Steven Jackson was saying how he was talking about the respect. Like, and I thought about you. He was
Yeah.
talking about respect of men, and that if you're a man and somebody disrespects you, you have to react or
Yep.
you're not a man. He
Yeah.
said that.
No, it's real.
And I think about that because just in my job, I watch how people treat people, not in my workplace, but,
Yeah.
you know, out in the community, if I'm covering meetings and I'm watching political bodies and how people treat other people. And I
Yeah.
have seen some men treat other men with the utmost disrespect.
Right.
And I'm
And you
like,
look at the man that got
wow.
disrespected as less than a man.
Well, I'm looking like, what's going on? I hate to say I'm looking at them as less than a
People,
man, but
and that's
I'm
and
like,
that's the whole
what's
point.
up?
That's the whole point. The whole point is people will definitely try to make you. They'll try to make you feel like if you react in a very aggressive way, that's not the way to do things. And that's cool if that works for you, right? Like if you want to go through life and what people say about you and how people treat you and approach you doesn't matter, and it's the path of least resistance and you're non-confrontational, I'm not knocking you. I'm really not. Any person, man or woman. But as a man, it is a serious trickle-down effect. It's no different than the Will Smith, Chris Rock situation. No one cares how small you are. No one expects Chris Rock to beat Will Smith. But what we do expect you to do is react, hit him back, do something, get restrained. I don't care if you get beat up, because if you get beat up, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
What he knows is you just not going to hit him and nothing's going to happen, because that's when it looks bad, man. People don't look at you the same. They don't look at you like you're a man.
So I agree.